Hello, hello.
Testing, testing.
Testing.
Are we good to go? All right. Well, thanks for having us, everyone. I'm super stoked to come here and talk to you about DAOs. This is my good friend, Zach Robinson.
Hello, everybody.
From Protocol Labs, IPFS. And this is Sky from Metacartel, DYDX, or DX.
DX DAO.
DX DAO.
House, a few different DAOs, yeah.
Get that confused. What we want to talk about today is how DAOs and DeFi kind of support each other, some of the opportunities in the DAO tooling space, and my personal favorite, which is how DAOs are kind of changing culture around the worker like gig economy. So, who wants to set us off with DeFi and DAOs kind of like weaving in together?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, this is a DeFi event. So we were saying, why should we talk about DAOs, right? And very clearly, it is apparent that decentralized finance has allowed basically anyone to mint tokens, allowing you to mint tokens that have financial value. You can now bring these things into your community. That's not really something that Uber can do, and there's security laws and things, but with tokens and blockchains, this is very easy. So that is DeFi and token economics and financial digital incentives is what allows DAOs to even exist, because we probably can't have DAOs without that. And then it ties in full circle because most DeFi projects actually didn't start as DAOs and aren't DAOs, but if you have a product or a protocol that is owned by a company or a few people, that is automatically not a decentralized system or product. And so you then basically have to turn over your system to a decentralized community or collective. And so the thing that allowed something to exist is now saving the systems that are supposed to be decentralized. And so that's how we came up with DAOs and DeFi really tying together.
Yeah. One of the interesting things that I think we've all experienced through this process as well is participating and working on different DAOs and understanding like how they structure and govern themselves. There is DAOs that have created their own kind of voting mechanisms, their own systems for kind of self-regulation, and then there's like standardized DAOs. So you have like Moloch DAOs, you have protocol DAOs, like DAOs that were DAOs before the specific tooling that we use and have helped create were founded basically. But what I really like want to ask the guys here is like, how does your work in DAOs, like whether you're a DAO OG or a DAO like more of a new to the DAO ecosystem, how do you find it to be with those people that you're working with? Like, where do the DAO people come from, and what is it that like makes a person who's a good fit for a DAO in your experience?
I'm definitely one of the DAO newbies, so I can talk a little bit about my experience because I come from digital production. So a lot of like creators, artists, designers, people that are probably like they've heard about Web3, they've heard about NFTs, and they're trying to find a way to start and to fit in. And I think one of the cool things that DAOs have to offer is like we've got a place for them to jump in and start learning that is I think it's very welcoming in most of the DAO spaces. And they do a really good job of kind of making a place for people to come in and get a lay of the land before they're expected to do something, or if they are really excited, there's often things like bounties where people can jump in and be like, oh, that's the right fit for me. One of the things I'm really excited about is how do we get more of these people that are like Web 2 wisdom, smart Web 2 people that want to come over and make bridges for them to do that. And I think freelancers, which many of us have been at one point, whether you're a developer or a creator in some way. So we talked a little bit about the freelance community and the fact that like you do a day job, you show up, you do your work, you get paid your $25 an hour, you give it to the company, they then sell it for $1 million to some big brand or make a commercial. And DAOs are really allowing kind of the opening of these communities so people can come in and actually get paid in equity in some of the work that they're doing. So I think it's a really good, starting point, or like a thing to get people excited and interested in. And I think one of the things we have to figure out is how do we make people feel warm and welcome in these communities where there's a lot of hand-holding. Like, it's rough. If you're a developer and you're in the Web3 space, you kind of get that it's going to be rough. If you're a Mac user and you're used to your like Adobe products and all the clean, polished Mac things that you use, it's a little bit Wild West still. So,
well, and the other thing that's like really great about the way in which the new systems are being developed for more equitable distribution of rights and ownership is that if you do a great job and if you help create and make this DAO successful in whatever kind of products or thing it's bringing, whether it's a film or a DeFi protocol, you will own a piece of that and you'll be rewarded in which. And like you and I, we've played with like systems like Coordinape, right? Where it's like, okay, cool, we're now going to self-assign the value to the contributors of the project from our knowledge and our expertise. And then we will onboard people into that reward system as we see them start to do things. But I mean, it's not reinventing the wheel. Like if you work with people, you hire people, you bring them on for a trial period, right? But what I really like about DAOs and structuring as a DAO is allowing someone to pick up tasks and kind of lead their own direction. Like, yeah, I have roles and responsibilities that need to be done and like things I'm looking for, but I try to identify people who I think are just really interested in picking up certain things, whether it's content creation, operations, or like doing the math for the yield, where it's like you're really interested in that kind of stuff, and like if you want to do that, like please feel free and go ahead and do it. And I find like working in DAOs and so many people that work on DAOs is you get the really self-directed people, right? Who I'm a terrible manager, let's just be honest. Like that's why I work well in DAOs, because I like to do what I think is right, and I like to like lead things that I'm interested in, and I leave everything else that I'm not good at up to other people. And in DAOs, there are people who will fill in those slots and harmonize with your gifts and responsibilities as well. So I think that structure and that framework allows for that versus more of a structural hierarchy component.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think the beauty of this is that because it's not a corporation that like has bought your time and you're not salaried, like you work across 4 DAOs, instead of having to wear like one hat at your company where you're responsible for all these different things, you can dive really deep into one expertise and then offer that to many different DAOs or many different communities. You can be the best finance person, or if whatever weird nerdy thing you love, you just dive right into that.
Sky, how many DAOs do you contribute to?
I'm in a lot of DAOs, and I have voting power, and I participate in many DAOs, but I contribute to a handful. It's very hard coming up with how you divvy up your time and what you spend your attention on is probably the number one problem in the DAO space. Is no one can spend as much time in the communities that they want to contribute to as they would like to.
There's an unlimited amount of like interesting avenues in which you can go down. But like I think the way I do it at least is like, what are the problems I'm really interested in solving? And then what are the projects that are trying to work on and solve those problems? And I like attract to those problem areas and then work with people who are interested in those problems as well.
Totally. And just even higher level than what they were just discussing, DAOs, the DAO tooling or DAO frameworks are a tool for a coordination. And Kevin Owaki and many people in the space will say it over and over, like it's all about coordination all the way down. And coordination comes with how we can divvy up things, how we can delegate powers, and then how we can use economic incentives, which are these tokens, which exist to align interest for all the different stakeholders of a community. And that was something that was impossible 10 years ago. And so that alone is a game-changing technology. Like, yeah, money on the internet without trusting governments and banks is game-changing, but then a tool that can have global coordination in a trustless manner, and then as you start to work with each other, you actually start to trust people, and then you actually need less trust the longer DAO's been around.
That's what's actually funny, right? Is like we have this trustless system, but then from working with certain DAOs or certain people within the DAOs, you develop this network of trust, where like I know if you're working on something, like I'm going to be interested in it, it might be aligned with my interests, and that you're not going to work on like a rug pull project, right? Like I know there are people inside of the DAOs that I'm in as well, and I think like Meta Cartel is one of the like most principled, right, of the people who have kind of come to bring value and create value and share it within the DAO that they're a part of, like because Meta Cartel just gives all of its money away for free. That was our mission, is to make a grants DAO and to give the money away to the DApp developer ecosystem. So.
And then another cool thing about a topic on DAOs is DAOs are a spectrum. So people always say like, what is a DAO? And so DAOs like you could argue that a small multi-sig with 3 people that are coordinating that never met each other on the internet and all put money in and have a goal, like that's a micro DAO, right? Git POAPs are these POAPs that are being given to contributors of repos on GitHub. Currently Web3 projects, but eventually everyone on GitHub can have a Git POAP. Once these people have POAPs and a Web3 wallet, every single repo on GitHub can form their own micro DAO, and they can coordinate and start managing money together. That's impossible right now unless they trust the main guy who controls the repo. I'm not a developer, but however, yeah, the main, I don't know what the name of the guy is. But now you can have a DAO for every repo on GitHub. Once every GitHub on every repo on GitHub is a DAO, then I think Microsoft might see that you should just give GitHub back to the world.
And so, like, thinking about DAOs and the way they're structured, like, would GitHub, like, saying they pass this over to a DAO, would that be a DAO of DAOs? And then the DAOs would govern the whole GitHub protocol, basically. So it's like the way they could collectively decide on, like, where decisions were made and how the pull requests were changed or shifted, or even the front end of the UI. And, like, what we were just saying, right? Having DAO tooling that represents the interests of the DAO. So it's not just a single member of the DAO changing the font or the logo or the text. It's a DAO vote that goes through and enables, like, the community's voice to be effectively embedded in the new protocol.
Yeah, and you mentioned DAO tooling, and we just met Mona backstage, whose Enzyme is building treasury management for DAOs, and a lot of people in this space currently are building tools for DAOs. And one of the things, like at DX, so I work a lot with DXDAO, and it's very decentralization forward. And some DAOs have multi-sig, some DAOs are on-chain DAOs, practice, the Governor Alpha or like a DAO stack or a Moloch DAO platform. But at the end of the day, the tools, Twitter would be a hard example, but there's a lot of tooling that's being built for DAOs, and we continually tell the people that are building this that we want the DAO to be able to actually own the account. And so it's okay to delegate your content publishing on Mirror to a person who can write that and post it, and that's the word of the DAO, even though not the whole DAO decided on every word in the article. But if that person who has been granted that access from the actual DAO, not because he's the admin of this tool, if he does something bad, the DAO can actually revoke admin privilege from that person, and that is a collective community decision. So more and more we want these DAO tools to be actually be able to be owned by the DAO, because that's really important. So you don't have to trust individual people, basically.
Let's talk a little bit about like creatives and creator economies. I think that's like a little more of the interesting side of for your focus as well. How do you see like creators, filmmakers, musicians, artists using DAOs in a meaningful way to improve and distribute their work?
Yeah. So I have a background doing film stuff, and anybody who's been in film kind of understands that it really takes like a community to build something. We're talking like hundreds of people on any type of film, right? And one of the things that I think is a little unfair is kind of the equity of it, right? You have a gripper or a gaffer who's gonna work 13, 14-hour days, 6 months straight, and then they made a film. And if the film's really good and somebody sells that film gets sold for $20 million, the company owns it, right? Whatever label, and then maybe like a producer or somebody gets a big payout. But what about the guy who actually like put his blood, sweat, and tears into that for years or for months? And I think there's some really cool opportunities here where with either DAOs or NFTs or some sort of tooling where we can talk about how do we actually get the people that are making the products happen, like get a small amount of that cut, right? Even if it was just earmarking 10% of that for the people that are working, so they can, again, you're getting a kickback of the work that you're putting in, and so maybe we are able to incentivize people to work a little bit harder, to say like, yeah, these are 13-hour days, but I really believe in this project, and at the end of this, I'm gonna be able to, see a little bit of a reward. And ultimately also through on-chain protocols, we can have almost like the GitHub for movie makers, right? Like what if there is an on-chain POAP for everybody who works on a movie? And now I'm able to like put my ETH address in, and you can see every single movie verified that I've worked on. Maybe there's even ways to do, I talk about like Coordinate as this really interesting tool for rewarding people with like primates. Like who did you work with and did a good job, and then trusting that the organism itself of the people working together are like actually figuring out where the value went, right? So over a large enough sample, you can. get
Well,
a good.
and the interesting thing is like if you are in a DAO of grippers or gaffers and you're consistently producing content, working on the same films, you got to imagine these guys they know each other, right? You know who's good and you know who's like not good, right? So it's like the trust network of like we're all in this squad together and we've worked on these different films together. They bring that to a new film and they have more autonomy to decide where they go and the projects that they work on. And there's a history for that, right? It's not like your work history according to the guy who said whatever. It's like, well, I've been working with these production crews on these type of films for the past like few years or so. And I think like subjectively, whether it's fair or not, it's an opportunity to get more productive like engagement out of people as a worker or a contributor, where it's like, yeah, we're going to pay you, but also when we're successful, you're going to share in the success of that. And you're going to feel good, I'm going to feel good, you're going to feel better while you're doing it, because you're like, if this movie kicks ass, like I'm going to get royalties, like a slow slice of royalties forever. And like I want all the people that I work with, especially in DAOs, to feel like that and to be like, wow, like you're the founder, whatever that means, but we're all sharing in the equity of this thing, right? If I put my effort and time into it and it's successful, I am rewarded for that, and I have say.
And what they're just talked about, this creative thing, it sounds like amazing ideas and it sounds almost theoretical, but this actually exists. Like there's a project called Song Camp, which is a DAO. They just created a headless band, which is exactly what you're talking about. It's 70 musicians came together and created a band, but there's no head of this band. They made 45 songs, they made 3,000 NFTs, and they sold them through packs. And as you buy the pack, the money goes through smart contracts and gets distributed to every single member of the band. And there's 70 band creators, and even royalty sales will also do that. So that's like a live example from last week of this exact process.
I think that's the magic. I think that's the thing where you're talking about people who maybe you don't have a retirement, you don't have like funds set up, or you're actually working like day to day, or paycheck to paycheck. And so as you build more of these things and you're getting these royalties, you're looking at somebody who's like, oh, I'm 45, I can actually take a year off because I have all these royalties coming in to make the money. It's almost like the passive income you think of for real estate, but it's actually your own content that you've made and worked hard to do. So again, incentives for people who want to work hard and try something new and interesting, and then to reap the rewards, kind of be your own benefactor, I think.
Yeah, we worked on the smart contracts for Song Camp through Logos. So like being able to jam with them and collaborate on those ideas and then bring value to them and be like rewarded in NFTs is like a great like kickback mechanism, right? Like we've watched royalties come in from the songs that we own already, like which exceeds what it would have costed for the smart contract audits. So it's like, it's this agreement where it's like, yeah, we need this, you have that, right? We want to create this and we need these people in. And the DAO is like this really open, fertile ground where you can just grow collaborations and like really reward people in a meaningful way. So we have 1 minute. What should we say in 1 minute?
Oh, can I jump in?
Question? Does anyone have a question? Is anyone curious about something that we're talking here about DAOs?
In the back.
I would love to talk about Nouns DAO.
He's the noun expert.
I love Nouns DAO. So Nouns DAO is this new idea, and you've seen some things with CC0. So CC0 is no one owns the IP, basically, or people can use their IP. Nouns are these little digital characters with like very recognizable glasses. One sold a day, and they're selling for like 80 to 100 ETH each day. And all of the money goes into the treasury and is controlled by the DAO of noun holders, right? And so this is basically, I mean, you could compare it to like the original DAO and some other DAOs in the space that have this ability, but it can really do anything. And its current mission is to like spread the awareness of DAO, of nouns, mainly because that would benefit the project. But it really could do anything. It could do charity work, it could fund things. And the coolest thing is, because it's CC0, there's all these derivatives that come off of this, and everyone, even though they don't have to, they give back to the nouns DAO community. So Little Nouns sells nouns every 15 minutes, and every 10 of them goes back to the Nouns DAO. So there's this powerful thing of giving up IP to the world, and DAOs that don't have legal entities, we were just talking about this, are going to have to face the same thing. If you have a product, omen.eth, which is a prediction market platform, the DAO doesn't own any IP in any country. Someone could take that IP, but if it's CC0, maybe that benefits that project.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right.